Chapter 131. Showdown. Everyone fell in silence, but one dragon, whose height was around 10 meters and had a similar feature to Tannan, suddenly stepped forward with anger. "What did you say, you bastard?" The expression of the others wasn't much better, but their expressions were also filled with anger. Nevertheless, they were different from the first dragon, who dared to step forward and question Riser. After all, unlike this dragon, they didn't have a good background. Tannan, the youngest son of Tannan. Bova stared angrily at Riser, but Riser had never put him into his eyes. Riser seemed disinterested, yet at the same time, still maintained this calm and friendly smile that made Bova feel disgusted. Nevertheless, this confrontation quickly attracted all the reporters. Their instincts and jobs as reporters made them wish to capture their argument, but when they thought about who was standing behind Riser, they hesitated, and in the end, they didn't do anything. However, some of them, who happened to be in the minority, took a video and a picture of this argument. Yet, Riser didn't care and just felt bored since it was so easy for him to provoke them. Even if they had become a devil, their thought was still as simple as ever, and they were easily provoked. Frankly, he knew his words easily made him the enemy of all the dragons, but so what? A dragon was nothing but a giant lizard. The only ones that he could put into his eyes were those dragons whose names remained in the myth or history, but this Tannan definitely wasn't one of them. As for Tannan, while neither of them were enemies, the way Tannan acted in front of him made him too lazy to talk. In the worst case, Riser thought that he might as well make this race go extinct. Nevertheless, Bova, who was being ignored by Riser, felt rage and wanted to smash Riser. But Guahahaha. Tannan laughed. "Then, I can't wait for our match. Don't lose so easily. Come on." Leaving those who no longer stayed. The rest also didn't stay and follow their king, but Bova kept staring at Riser with anger. However, Riser didn't stay and just walked to the hall where the press conference was held by the others. Come on. His peerage members didn't have a good impression of the dragons and scolded them in the voices that could be heard by those dragons, yet impossible to be heard by the reporters. After all, they were female and still wished to appear gentle and feminine in front of the camera. "Bova, come on." "Yes, father." Bova was gloomy, staring dagger at Riser and his peerage members, but he still followed his father's words. Nevertheless, even with that conflict, the press conference didn't stop. As they sat side by side, they faced all the reporters who asked them questions. "Tannan-san, what do you think of this match?" Still, this was Riser's home ground, and everyone here was working in his family's industry. If they still wished to maintain their living, then they should know what they said, or else. When the press conference started, Riser welcomed all of them and acted like the host. With his voice, demeanor, and gentleness, he quickly became the center of attention, and everyone had a good impression of him, whether it was the reporters or the audience, as this press conference was held live. His parents, his older brothers, his family, and the others who were involved with his family in the Citry house were satisfied with his performance, thinking that even if Riser was quite impulsive, his talent at grasping people's hearts was amazing. How sneaky. Little weasel. What a hypocrite. The dragons, who were by his side, couldn't help but murmur and curse him in a low voice, feeling that Riser was a bastard. But then again, they knew this was the talent of the devil. They were good at seducing people. Riser heard their talk, but he ignored them since their opinion wouldn't change his life much. Instead, he might as well make the devil in the underworld know his figure, familiar himself, so they could see what kind of person they needed to serve in the future. Then, when his talk ended, it was time for the question and answer corner. Frankly, it was hard for the reporters to ask Riser, as a little question might determine their future, so they asked Tannan first. Moreover, their young master had kindly asked them something, so they could only follow. I can see that Riser Phenex definitely isn't an easy opponent, and I also anticipate our match, but No, we won't lose. Tannan's expression was firm and filled with confidence. Nevertheless, please anticipate the battle between the dragon and the phoenix. His message was concise and short, but it showed his status as someone who had stepped into the ranks of the top 10 in the rating game. Even though he was a dragon, he was a dragon king. He was different from most dragons, who were simple, so naturally, he also knew how to grasp people's hearts. He also had a lot of experience in the rating game, so it was normal for him to be able to manage the media well. Moreover, Tannan knew that all the people in this place were Riser's people. If he talked too arrogantly, on the next day, he wouldn't be surprised to see the news would be filled with denigratory news about him. This wasn't good. especially when the status of the reincarnated devil was still hardly accepted by all the devils in the underworld, as they believed the existence of the reincarnated devil was nothing but just a lowly slave. The fact that Tannan could become an ultimate class devil and have his own territories had already touched the nerves of many, as they felt that he wasn't worthy to receive such a thing even if he had become a devil. Frankly, even if Tannan was a dragon king, he wasn't invincible and still needed to take care of all the dragons who had followed him. After reincarnating as a devil, he also knew how dangerous the media was. This was also the reason why he tried to maintain his popularity, since the more people liked him, the better it was for all of his races. Compared to the muscles, the might of the words were more dangerous, since they could erase his entire race. If Tannan was so strong that he could ignore all the consequences, then it might be okay, but he couldn't after all. Frankly, Tannan realized how cunning Riser was, and he started to regret his decision to accept Surzeka's invitation. But then again, as a dragon, he also had his own pride. Yet he also wasn't stupid enough to give a chance for Riser to slander him as the enemy of the entire devils on the underworld. Some of Tannan's peerage members also realized this, and the others, while they might not realize it, could feel the tenseness of the atmosphere, so they decided to shut their mouths, especially when they received a reminder from those who had realized. Meanwhile, Riser, who had set up everything, still showed his calm and composure as if everything was unrelated to him. While the majority of devils were ignorant, those who stood above felt chilled by Riser's means to take down his opponent. If Riser succeeded with his ploy, there was no doubt that he would make all the dragons into the enemy of all the devils of the underworld. By then, it would be impossible for the dragon to live in the underworld once again, and their extinction was only a time when the dragon would lose their means to stay alive, as they would be unable to get their hands on dragon apples, a fruit that now exists only in the underworld, which a certain race of dragons needs to eat in order to survive. Yet, when everything was so smooth, trouble had always come, wishing to make Riser into a joke. Among the reporters, while Riser wasn't sure whether this devil was bought by his enemy or due to a sense of justice, suddenly raised his hand and asked, "Riser Phenex, were you really the one who defeated executives of the Gregory, Kokabeel, the holder of Divine Dividing, Valley, and the governor of the Gregory, Azazel?" While the media has said so, and there is even the video as proof, I am sure not only me but many are doubting this news. Are you really the one who defeated them? Are you sure? Moreover, is it only me, or do you have a prejudice toward the reincarnated devil? Please answer my questions. The reporter was full of spirit and asked all of those questions in one go in front of the media. However, hearing those questions, everyone had gloomy expressions, thinking that this person was crazy. Lord Phenex, Lady Phenex, Revel Phenex, Rias Phenex, and everyone related to Riser had a gloomy expression, and they were ready to stop the press conference right away. Frankly, they felt a bit regretful for doing this press conference and live broadcast, as they were unable to stop this oversight. If Riser did the wrong answer, he might become the enemy of all the reincarnated devils and receive even more prejudice from now on. Riser's peerage members were quite anxious due to this question. Nevertheless, Tannan and his peerage members gloated about Riser's misfortune. However, Riser was calm and reminded his palm, telling the others to calm down. I am not sure where you have heard that I have prejudice toward the reincarnated devils, but I believe that you shouldn't take all the news you have heard as the truth. Or are you someone who is unable to make your own decisions and just follow the others obediently? Moreover, have your parents taught you etiquette? As I am surprised that you can even stand among us here. The reporter was in a daze before he quickly got angry. You haven't answered my question yet? I have never prejudiced the reincarnated devils. If so, then I won't even reincarnate someone into the devil and make them into my own peerage members. Moreover, in the Phenex domain and the Citri domain, we have many reincarnated devils who live with us normally. So, for those of you who feel that you are treated unfairly in the place where you live, please come to the Phenex domain and the Citri domain, as we treat you the same as others. Naturally, it is the same with you, the pure-blood devils, who don't feel uncomfortable staying in the place where you live. We, the Phenex domain and the Citri domain, welcome all of you. Why did his answer feel like an advertisement? Nevertheless, Riser wasn't finished. As for your doubt about my power, whether I had defeated Kokabeel, the White Dragon Emperor, and Azazel, I only have one thing to say. Riser stared into the camera, ignoring the reporter who asked him a question. Just watch me. Chapter 132, Reversal. Just watch me. His firm yet determined expression was captured by everyone. With those words, even if some had a doubt, They couldn't say anything and could only wait until his match with Tannan started. Meanwhile, after those words, the double MC that was prepared by Riser beforehand also took over, ending the press conference smoothly. As for the reporter who caused trouble, he was dragged by his family's people without attracting the camera. As for what was happening to him, besides death, were there even any options? The devils had always upheld the hierarchy among their races. For a low-class devil to be so rude in front of a high-class devil and not even use an honorific when he called Riser, there was no option except for death, especially with how much trouble he had caused at the press conference. After all, not everyone could be protected by Surzek like East say. Nevertheless, once again, everyone was surprised by Riser's wit. After all, there was no doubt due to Riser's words, not only did he gain the favor of everyone, but the territory of the Phenex domain and the Citri domain would also receive a considerable amount of population. Having a population was definitely a great thing for the devils, especially when they lacked them. With the underworld being as massive as the earth, the number of creatures that lived in this place was limited. Those reincarnated devils and pure-blood devils who were deceived by his sweet words would definitely come to the domain of the Citri house and the Phenex house, adding more vitality to their territory. As for whether they would be treated well or not, it was a different matter. After all, it was the fault who was being deceived, right? Watch your neck. I will definitely beat you up. When the press conference ended and the camera had been turned off, Bova couldn't control his emotion and provoked Riser. As a dragon, his personality was quite simple and straightforward. He disdained those who used an underhanded approach like Riser. Bova, be quiet. Tannan was still wary, especially when he noticed a camera was aimed in their direction. While he was as annoyed as his son, he didn't want to make unneeded trouble. Nevertheless, there was no doubt that he felt quite annoyed by Surzek. He knew the one who had caused him trouble was Riser, but if Surzek didn't ask him, would he be involved in this troublesome opponent? While Tannan didn't think Riser was that strong, this guy's method to take down his opponent was so disgusting. Others still showed respect toward him and had a warrior-like attitude, but Riser? Frankly, he had an urge to blast Riser with his fire breath, but Tannan took a deep breath, calming his nerves, but nevertheless, he agreed with his son's words. Let's wait till the match. When their match started, there was no way he was going to let go of Riser easily. Bova wanted to talk more, especially when he saw Riser's indifferent attitude, who had completely ignored him. He ground his teeth in hatred and then followed his father to leave, but he kept glaring at Riser when he walked until his head was slapped by Tannan. Still, there was no doubt Bova's face would become hot news tomorrow. Nevertheless, Riser was still at ease, but he had to say he felt quite tired, especially after he encountered such unexpected trouble. Frankly, he had never thought that his plan would be perfect as he was sure that his enemy wouldn't let him go. Still, he didn't expect the counterattack to be so ruthless. Yet, when he thought he had almost killed Surzek that day, he somehow didn't feel surprised and felt better. Next time, don't let your wife or your little sister meet me. The little sister aside, if he met Surzek's wife, he wasn't going to let her go. Nevertheless, the press conference ended with a perfect ending. Everything thought that even if Riser lost, there was no doubt that he was a respectable devil. However, Riser had never intended to lose, and he had always aimed for a victory. Still, like Tannan and others, he also left the hall where the press conference was held. He needed to think about the strategy and talked with his peerage members, wondering what type of raiding game they were going to face when they faced Tannan. Still, his thoughts suddenly stopped when he met his wife in the hallway. Sona. Frankly, after that fight at the Kuo Academy, he never contacted his wife, so he wasn't sure about her condition, but when he thought about his mother's words, he understood his mother's concern. Sona was extremely thin, her complexion was pale, her black hair lacked luster, and she appeared frail. While he was angry by how she didn't believe in him previously, watching her current condition, it was hard for him not to show concern. Only one figure, who stood behind him, was extremely gloomy as she saw Sona had appeared. Riser and Sona stared at each other for a while until Sona suddenly apologized. I am sorry. Riser let out a helpless sigh and then looked at his peerage members. Leave first. I need to talk with her. While hesitating, Revel said, Then, we'll wait for you in the car, Oniai-sama. She then bowed her head to Sona and brought the rest with her without showing much of a change in her expression. Riser hesitated, but in the end, he didn't say anything to Revel. He looked at his wife again, feeling a bit awkward, then sighed. Sorry, I guess that I am also the childish one. No, you have a right to get angry at me. I didn't believe you at the time, but if the same situation might appear, I might not be able to be indifferent in telling you to continue to fight. Sona approached him and wanted to touch him since it had been a while, but she hesitated as she was afraid for him to reject her again. You are my husband, and I don't want to see you hurt. As she tried to find the appropriate words to express her feelings, he hugged her. Okay, enough. I know. You don't need to explain anymore. At the same time, he also knew their situation was quite different. His trust in her was nothing but a method to make her fall for him, and she also didn't face a situation where her life was threatened. Meanwhile, his situation was different, as anyone who saw him would think that he might die any time when, in truth, he was as lively as ever. Yet, he also didn't blame them, as he had never told them that he could become stronger by dying. Nevertheless, even if he explained, would they be able to indifferently watch him hurt? If Sona was in the same situation as him, then he was afraid that he might not be able to say so. But Sona thought that he was still angry, but he put his finger on her pale, moist lips. I am the one who should apologize. I know you were worried about me, but at that time, I just can't manage my emotions well and become immature. No, I am the one who was at fault. Okay. We too at fault. But now, are we good now? Watching his helpless smile, Sona pursed her lips and hugged him tightly. You are so thin. He was in distress, gently caressing her hair and holding her waist. She didn't say anything and just hugged him since this was what she longed for. Still, as they hugged each other, he noticed a familiar twin tail stuck out in the corner of the corridor. Serafal and Iki. The twin tail shook slightly, and she wished to escape as she was noticed, but come here. Hesitating for a while, Serafal walked out from her hiding place while lowering her head. She thought that she could greet him cheerfully like before, but it seemed she couldn't do that. She knew how much trouble that had been caused by Surzek to Riser, but how could he watch Riser kill Surzek that day? I won't blame you as he is your friend, and I won't ask for your support, but next time, don't stop me. Are you still going to kill Surzek, Sean? If there is a chance, probably, but I don't think such a chance will appear in the future. Serafal stared at Riser for a moment, then shook her head. You are not his opponent, Riser-chan. He is different from us. He is like an entirely another being. While it was downright rude, she knew that Surzek was different from any of them. I know, but I will get even stronger. Serafal struggled to find words on how to make Riser change his mind, but in the end, she made up her mind. I am not like others. I am not your woman, after all. I am your sister-in-law, so I will do my best to stop you. Then, try to stop me. Riser had made up his mind, and it was impossible to stop, especially with how many troubles that Surzek had caused for him. Still, when his relationship with his wife warmed up, Revel suddenly returned with an anxious expression. Revel, what's wrong? Oni-sama, the setting of the game has been decided. Riser was surprised at how fast the setting of the game had been decided, but he asked, what is it? Revel hesitated before she let out a helpless sigh. It's lightning fast game. Chapter 133, Unfavorable Circumstance. Lightning fast game. It is a short variant of the standard rating game. The rules of the rating game are the rules utilizing the shortest time limit and narrowest playing field. In simpler terms, it is a quick match, a blitz. Within the 1-hour time limit, whoever defeats their opponent's king wins. In the case that neither player can defeat the enemy king, a winning team is decided by the number of points calculated by the number of pieces each side has claimed from the other. This game was easy to understand and simple, but at the same time, it was horrible for Riser's group. Why? It was because their opponent was Tannan. Why was Tannan, who was the Dragon King, unable to enter the top 5? If Riser had to say, it was due to Tannan's simple mind. Even if Tannan might be smarter than the majority of the dragons, it didn't mean he was exceptional. Even worse, his peerage members' minds also didn't help at all, as their minds weren't much different from a reckless beast that could only charge forward. On rating game, there were many types of games, and if one wanted to win, it wasn't enough to just have a powerful strength. They needed a strategy, an understanding of the terrain, and many other factors to win. Tannan and his peerage members lacked that. Moreover, due to their large bodies, they were also an easy target. Tannan and his peerage members might have overwhelming power, but power wasn't enough to bring victory to their team. However, this lightning-fast game was different. The rules of this game were simple, and the narrow space of the playing field would bring the greatest advantage to Tannan and his peerage members. Riser didn't expect that he would play this type of game. If it was the others, there was no doubt that even if the number was few, there were some who thought that he had a chance to win. But this game? No one would think that Riser was able to win against Tannan. Instead, there was no doubt everyone would think of it as a one-sided massacre. Riser knew that he could take care of the venue and other things, but for managing the rules of the rating game, it was outside of his power. Moreover, the creator of the rating game was a Juka who happened to be Surzeka's friend, so everything was easy. Nevertheless, due to that announcement from Revel, he left his villa once again with Revel and his peerage members in preparation for his rating game, leaving his wife and older sister-in-law. Naturally, he didn't leave right away, as he talked with Sona and Serafal for a while. Serafal aside, he hoped that Sona would get better when he had finished with his rating game. He hoped to see her and would clean her up at that time. I have prepared new stockings. Riser was speechless, but he kissed Sona's lips before he left with Revel. Frankly, it had been a while since he had done it with his wife. Even if his wife's body wasn't as good as the others, there was no doubt he missed her, but he knew this wasn't a time for this, especially with his wife's frail condition. Sona also didn't stop him, telling him that she was going to get healthy when his match started. As for Serafal, she was ignored. Frankly, Riser knew that he shouldn't expect much from Serafal. While Serafal would support him in case he was at a disadvantage or attacked, or even if he would do something, there was no doubt that Serafal would help him. However, in case Riser tried to attack Surzek, she might not do anything unless Surzek took the initiative. Yet, he was different from before as he had become stronger. He could handle Surzek on his own, but as he walked away with Revel, he could feel a hand rubbed against his lower body lewdly, causing a natural reaction within his pants. Frowning and feeling nervous because Serafal and Sona were still behind them, he looked at the owner of this hand. Yet, Revel only showed a gentle smile. Riser realized the darkness kept on Revel was darker than he had thought. While others had a headache with what Riser was planning to do, he had already given instructions to his peerage members along with an explanation of what kind of strategy they would use on the rating game. While the others had a headache, he felt that it was easy to handle Tannan. After all, Tannan was just a mere Dragon King. Moreover, if he fell against a mere Tannan, then there was no point in him fighting against Surzek to begin with. Amidst the intensity and dispute that happened due to his match, Riser was calm. Instead, he tried to learn his newfound ability. Orichalcos. Is this sacred gear, Oni-sama? Revel was amazed and curious as she touched Riser, who was wearing his Orichalcos. The full-body black armor on his body was like an image of a demon, and the halberd on his hand was like a scythe of a god of death. When Riser wore this armor, he was like the ultimate weapon to exterminate all living creatures. Note, his armor is like ASW G-01 Gundam Bale in black color, but with a halberd weapon. It is like a sacred gear, but at the same time, it is also something different. I am not sure, but this is amazing. While Revel didn't understand much about this black armor and halberd, she could tell that they would make her older brother stronger. As for how her older brother could create these amazing items, was there even a need to ask? Due to their relationship, Revel had blind confidence and devotion toward him. She didn't doubt that all of those items were crafted and created by him, as there was nothing impossible for her older brother. Are you going to use them on the rating game, later, Oni-sama? No, I am not. Why? Revel thought he had done all of this for the rating game. Because I don't need to. With Tannan as his opponent, Riser didn't need to summon the Orichalcos. Don't tell anyone. You are the first person who has seen this. Riser felt that there was no need to become a big mouth and arrogantly told everyone about his new ability. I'm the first one to know about those gears? Yes. Sona Onisama hasn't seen it? Yes. Riser nodded. You are the first one I have shown them. A sweet smile emerged from her lips upon hearing those words. Nevertheless, he was more concerned about the hidden features that came from the Orichalcos. When he received Orichalcos on his body, a hidden trait known as a blazer existed within his body. Similar to the devil, the moment a blazer was born, the amount of magic power or demonic energy within their bodies was fixed, and it wouldn't change no matter how much they trained. Everything was determined at the moment of their birth. However, unlike the devil, when a blazer reached their limit, they would see black chains that constricted their bodies, and when they broke those chains, they would reach a new stage or even become a new being. Desperado. This was the stage of the blazer that he needed to aim for. By breaking the black chains that constricted his body and reaching the Desperado stage, he would gain various new abilities, but more importantly, the amount of demonic energy inside his body could grow the more he trained. Yes, the amount of his demonic power would no longer be bound by birth. Riser could grow even stronger as long as he trained when he became Desperado, but as of now, with the development of his orichalcos, it would take a while for him to reach that stage. If I want to reach that stage faster. Riser thought for a moment and knew there was only one way. With that thought, he had made up his mind, but similarly, Revel, who was by his side, also had made up her mind. Chapter 134, Monster. Revel had never given up on making Riser crazy about her. Yet she underestimated Sona's affection towards Riser as Sona let her pride down and apologized to him. Moreover, Sona also appeared frail in front of him, so it made him lower his guard and made him forgive her easily. Yet, there was no way Revel could let go of him so easily. Their relationship was confirmed after so many trials and difficulties. There was no doubt that she wished to be his number one. Everything went on smoothly, and Revel was about to get his heart, yet Sona appeared once again, interrupting their relationship. Even if Riser was still like before, without changing much, what about the future? While she knew that Sona was his wife, Revel still wished she would be the number one person who held his affection the most. Revel knew that their relationship was taboo, yet as they were in love, everything was forgiven. Revel, do you want to try this? Eh? Suddenly, her thoughts stopped when she heard his words. She was confused and asked carefully, "Can I wear them?" Why not? If there was something different about orichalcos and other devices in that certain story, orichalcos could be lent to others. When he released his orichalcos, he manipulated it so it could be worn by Revel. As she wore orichalcos, the black armor covered her entire body. However, he fell in silence as he could see the difference in this armor when he wore it and she wore it. When he wore the black armor, it made him appear like a cold yet handsome black knight. Yet when she wore it, it gave a similar image, but the chest area was accentuated, giving a slight feminine charm to the black armor. Riser sighed, thinking that while Revel was slightly short, her growth on the chest was amazing. I feel brimming with energy and stronger. Revel was surprised as she looked at her image through the reflection in the mirror inside the room. Now that you mention it, what's the effect of this armor, Oniai-sama? Regeneration. Eh? Regeneration. Revel, I know what you were thinking about. After all, with their Phenex trait, the regeneration effect on the orichalcos was simply meaningless. However, it can be lent to others and heal them. That's a good thing. While their regeneration was amazing due to their immortal trait, they couldn't heal others and could only use their Phenex tears to heal others. However, with this armor, it was different. Nevertheless, he felt the name device was a bit bland, considering this wasn't the world of a certain world. Instead, this was the DXD world, so he felt that he should give this device a new name. Mockingear. He murmured in a low voice while thinking whether he could create a replica of the orichalcos for his peerage members or other weapons with a special ability for his peerage members. Besides that, are there any other abilities? Revel asked curiously while wielding the halberd in her hand. Riser then explained how he could become stronger and faster the more hurt he was when he wore that armor. While Revel was speechless by the Machinations-like ability, she could tell how amazing orichalcos was. After all, as long as her older brother was hurt, he would become stronger and faster. While she felt distressed at his reckless way of fighting, she didn't stop him since this was the path that he had chosen, and as someone who loved him, she gave him her full support. The two talked for a while, including how they were going to face Tannan and his peerage members. Even if Riser had explained it beforehand, it wouldn't hurt to have a second talk regarding their strategy. Frankly, even if Tannan and his peerage members had a great advantage on this type of raiding game, Riser also had a certain advantage. The advantage was that Tannan didn't know anything about them. His and his peerage members' improvement had been kept a secret. Riser had never shown it to anyone, so there was no doubt they lacked information. However, Tannan and his peerage members were different, as there were many videos of their match. Nevertheless, for the others, even if they knew the information about Tannan and his peerage members, it was meaningless since the battle was going to end shortly due to the theme of the raiding game. Yet, as Riser had always said, the opinions of others were meaningless to him. All he needed to do was surprise all of them on the raiding game. Still, after that, he continued his work, crafting weapons for his peerage members. He had received Researcher, and it was meaningless if he didn't use them, yet Revel didn't leave him and did something that stunned him. Huh? Revel? What are you doing? He looked below at Revel, who entered the hollow gap within his table with a surprised expression. Due to her small height, she could easily enter this gap by pushing him lightly. Ignoring his surprise, Revel only giggled and smiled mischievously. Just continue work, Oniai-sama. Revel won't bother you. Her hands crept into his hands and took out the sleeping beast. Yet, there was no way for the beast to continue to sleep as it was interrupted. Geez, aren't you insatiable, Oniai-sama? Revel worked hard last night, yet it is still lively. Alright, Revel. It's okay. Just leave everything to Revel, okay? Revel stroked his erection with her soft, warm hand as she nearly stuck her nose into his glance. What a naughty scent. Even though she said those words, she didn't show much rejection and even inhaled the scent of his penis deeply. Due to the humid temperature, the smell of his penis was even more intense, yet she seemed intoxicated by this scent like an addict. Riser was no longer in the mood to work, and his mind was filled with the dirty image of Revel. Such a pure-like girl was tainted by him, which made him feel conflicted yet excited at the same time. Revel smiled through her eyes before she parted her pink lips and stuck out her tiny, moist tongue, lightly licking the tip of his erection. Delicus. Well, wait, Revel. This is bad. It's okay. You just need to enjoy, Oniai-sama. Yet, Revel didn't hear his complaint and continued to suck his penis as deliciously as he could, only holding his sanity desperately, feeling afraid as he was pulled deeper into the abyss by her. Watching his reaction through her glance, Revel knew that from now on, her older brother was going to hers. Even if the press conference was held, it didn't mean the rating game would be held soon. Instead, the participants were given time to prepare themselves. Moreover, it also gave a moment to ferment the hype of the match, so this rating game would be known to everyone. Naturally, if it was only a small fry, even if there was a moment to ferment the news, it wouldn't give much of a splash. However, whether it was Tannan or Riser, they were different. As a Dragon King, Tannan's popularity was absolute. Moreover, his popularity among children was quite impressive. Nevertheless, Riser also didn't lose, especially when the news of his victory against Kokobile, Vala, and Azazel was known to everyone. There was no doubt that the match between the two was something that was awaited by everyone. Tickets for their match were already sold out, and the underworld was filled with talk of their match. Nevertheless, Riser had never focused on his match as everyone thought. Instead, he was struggling, wondering whether what he did was correct. Sitting on the bench, taking a break from his work, he looked at Revel, who was training everyone in formation. Maybe Revel noticed his glance, then she smiled mischievously in his direction. This smile gave him a shudder as he thought about what they had done previously. The warmth of her mouth, soft hands, and small tongue. All of them were still fresh within his mind and caused an erection in his penis. Yet, at the same time, he kept wondering whether this was right. When he did it with Revel, it was his escapade, a moment of weakness when he was at his lowest point. He took advantage of her kindness. Even if he had said that he didn't regret it, the more they did it, the more dangerous he realized how deeply he might have fallen for her. This feeling scared him as he didn't like to have an uncontrollable factor within his emotions. Every day, his thoughts were occupied by her figure. He even forgot his wife during those days, even if he recalled how frail she appeared that day. Yet, when he was troubled, a sudden gentle voice interrupted his thought. Are you okay, Riser-kun? He looked up and saw the face of a gentle, mature woman with a dangerous hairstyle. Miss Lisanne? Cough. This is okay, right? As expected, a housewife is the best. Chapter 135, My friend's mother is kind. What's wrong? Are you in the middle of a thought for your rating game? Misla asked gently. Ah, yes. There was no way for him to tell the truth about what troubled him, so he could only nod at her question. Then, how about you rest for a moment? Rest? Yes. Working hard is good, but it is also necessary to rest. You are not wrong. Misla nodded and felt satisfied as he didn't force himself to work harder. By the way, my villa has just finished. Thank you for designing it. No, it's okay. If you are happy with it, then I am happy. Then, how about you visit my villa now? You haven't visited it, right? Is it okay? Why not? You can also use this chance to rest for a while, right? It isn't good for you to be tense all the time. While Riser knew he was tense, the tension he felt differed from what she meant. Yet, after a moment of thought, he agreed. Okay. As he agreed, he hoped this visit could clear up his mind. With his design, there was no way for Misla's villa to be bad. Instead, it was beautiful. If there was something that made Riser dissatisfied, it would be the size of the villa, as he felt that it was a little smaller than he thought it to be. Yet Misla refused to make this villa huge and satisfied her villa. Even Sarorg stopped him when he wished to make this villa even bigger. Yet, how could they not be? After all, Riser wouldn't accept their payment, and he would do it for free. He had given them so much, And even though Sarorg had promised to help and support him in creating a low-class rating game school, they felt that it wasn't enough to repay what Riser had done to him. However, even if this villa was small in terms of the nobles of the underworld, it was already humongous in the human world. Still, unlike most of his living places, where there was a hint of East in its architecture, Misla's villa was full of Western culture. Undoubtedly, this place was beautiful and comfortable, especially the flower, vegetables, and fruit garden he set up outside. That's the part that I love the most. In the morning, I have always taken care of them. Misla smiled as she saw Riser staring at her gardens. It's all thanks to you. You don't need to thank me, but I need to. You have given me many things, after all. Unlike her husband, who left and abandoned her, or even her family, the Vapula house, Riser had given her so much kindness that she couldn't count. She wondered how long it had been that she felt that she could rely on someone. Yet, it was also due to this that she wanted to repay him, especially when she could see how exhausted he was. Just rest in the living room. I will prepare tea for you. Thank you. Oh, right. I have just baked pastries. Do you want some? Watching how excited she was, Riser didn't have a heart to reject. Then, please. Misla showed a gentle and beautiful smile. Then, wait for a moment. As she walked to the kitchen, she hummed and skipped lightly due to excitement. Riser, who had sat on the sofa, stared at her back and felt that she had become much younger. While she might be the mother of his friend, she was in her 20s, and her complexion was much better than the first time they had met. Now that you mention it, why does this place seem empty? Even if her husband had abandoned her, it didn't mean she was completely abandoned. As the first wife of Lord Bale, the great king, it was natural that her everyday needs were taken care of. Moreover, when she was sleeping due to the sleeping disease, all the money for her treatments was paid fully. So there was no doubt that it surprised him when he saw her villa was empty, as usually there should be few maids that would help her need every day. I sent them on holiday. Is that fine? Geez, are you thinking that I am just a hopeless married woman who never knows how to do a household chore? Milsa pouted, showing her dissatisfaction. Riser wondered why, when an older woman like her acted like a young girl, she was so cute. Yet, at the same time, he wondered why he wasn't as excited as he thought to be. When they were together, he thought that he would be all excited, thinking a forbidden relationship might be born, yet he felt that he was okay. He was calm, and he didn't even have a thought of doing something perverted against Misla. Sorry, he thought of them, especially when he saw the shape of her hip lines that were completely seen through the silhouette of her garments. Her dress might be a little plain, yet he wondered why, when she wore such a plain dress, it enhanced her appeal significantly. Yet, compared to Revel, Misla's charm was still below, especially when he thought about what they did in his office previously. He let out a helpless sigh, and he realized he had another erection. Probably, this was the disadvantage of having a healthy body and being a descendant of the Phenex house. He was too lively. Nevertheless, her villa was so relaxing, so as he leaned on the sofa, he couldn't help but close his eyes, trying to take a break. Frankly, he realized how far he was from his goal, especially when he just wished to become a lazy bum. Yet after that fight, he worked even harder, and when the night came, he also needed to handle many women. So it was rather hard for him to take a break. So when he closed his eyes, he started to doze off. Riser Cohen. When Misla returned with a tray filled with tea and various pastries that had just been baked, she shut her mouth as she saw him sleeping. She could see he was exhausted, so she didn't wake him up after she put the tray on the table. Still, as she thought about giving him time to rest, she could see his posture was terrible, and he kept leaning to the side as if he was about to fall, so she quickly came by his side and caught him, then let him use her lap as a pillow. He moved his head slightly and even made himself comfortable by getting even closer. Geez, I am the mother of your friend, you know? Misla blushed, trying to endure her embarrassment as she felt she was being molested by Riser, but then, she didn't want to wake him up and let him continue to sleep as she gently caressed his hair. She didn't do anything and just kept staring at him as she lightly brushed his hair. While she kept dreaming about him, it was only a dream, but now, it was reality. Even though she just let him sleep on her lap, she smiled, feeling happy as they were so close. Nevertheless, she was glad that she sent all her maids away. Riser opened his eyes and felt strangely comfortable. He could smell a good scent, like a gentle, comforting, yet quite seductive. Moreover, he felt that his pillows were so soft, especially when it was so comfortable to touch. Have you woken up? He rose abruptly, then looked at Misla, whose face was so red. He had touched and kneaded her thighs for quite a while, so she was so shy at that moment. I am sorry. He bowed his head, feeling extremely awkward as he molested the mother of his friend. No, it's okay. I know that you are extremely exhausted, but... Misla's eyes wandered within his lower body, blushing before looking away, yet she glanced at it from time to time. He looked down and felt speechless since little Riser was excited. Due to its sheer size, it was impossible to hide it, and his bulge was so prominent that it almost burst out from his pants. I am sorry. He could only apologize. Misla was a little awkward and shy, but she shook her head as she didn't blame him. No, no. It's okay, but Sona isn't with you. As he was married, he shouldn't be frustrated, right? Well, even though it was a bit awkward, we had a little argument. Eh? Did you fight? Well, Misla somehow understood why he showed such a reaction. Still, she wasn't sure what she thought at that time, but she asked, do you want me to help you? Eh? Riser was shocked. What did he just hear? Also, what did he do? I mean, it'll be troublesome if no one is helping you. After all, you are about to face such an important match, but maybe you are not interested in an old lady like me, right? Ah, what am I talking about? I am sorry, Riser Cohen. The more she talked, the more panicked she was. Misla quickly apologized. Please forget what I am talking about. After all, there is no way that you are interested in an old lady like me, right? Yes, there was no way he was interested in an old lady like her. Misla really wished to escape, so she stood up and was ready to run away, but her hand was held by him. Are you sure? Misla stopped as she saw him staring at her curiously. While shy, she nodded gently. Chapter 136, Illicit. If it was before, Riser might hesitate, but after he faced so many things previously, his nerve was as hard as steel. Even his erection was as hard as steel. At that moment, he was unstoppable. Facing the kindness of such a kind, beautiful, mature woman, there was no way he would refuse. No, it would be rude of him to refuse so as not to waste that kindness. He could only agree. Or besides agreeing to her offer, what kind of option did he have? Nevertheless, why didn't the system say anything? Did it predict that he would be in this situation? Shouldn't it ask him to tell him that this situation would happen? Or did it predict that he would agree to Misla's kindness to begin with? System, how fearsome. System. Then, please excuse me. While Misla was embarrassed, she wasn't a virgin. She was a married woman and a mother of one. While it had been so long, as she wasn't sure how long the last time she was embraced by her husband, she still had an experience. Nevertheless, her hands were shaking, especially when she saw his bulge. With trembling hands, she removed his pants gently before his erection jumped out so suddenly. It's huge. She was startled as it was her first time to see something so huge. There was no comparison between him and her husband. Riser was above her husband. Suddenly, she felt her body was fiery. Misla took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure, yet the thought of being forcefully pounded by his erection kept emerging within her mind. It seems you're really pin up. Nevertheless, watching how hard his erection was, she could see how pin up he was. Even if Riser had accepted her offer, he had to say, it felt awkward. But then, he had to say, the feeling of having Misla to help him was different. As she was the wife of someone and a mother of one, it was so cute when she was blushing and tried to appear calm even though she was so shy. Does it feel good? She looked at him curiously as she grasped his penis, stroking it gently with her hand. It feels good, Misla-san. Frankly, he wondered how everything about her could be so magical, and he was almost unable to control his desire when he saw her tuck her hair behind her ear and showed her gentle smile. Those gestures were so feminine yet seductive. Watching his expression that seemed to genuinely feel good about her service, Misla had the urge to make him even better. Yet, when their eyes met, she realized he might not feel satisfied with her hand and wanted more than this. Misla-san. Her mind struggled for a moment, yet as he got closer, her heart was beating so fast, and she accepted his kiss. By then, it was impossible to stop him anymore, but when he was about to push her, she stopped him. No, not here. Well, let's go to my room. She might have prepared herself for this, yet she still had the last layer of shame on her heart that hadn't been erased. Even if she had prepared for this immoral relationship, she wasn't prepared to have their first time on the sofa. Riser also didn't say much nonsense and followed her wish, carrying her in his arms like a little girl into her room. What were they going to do inside her room? Was there even a need to answer that question? China has a good proverb. 30 is like a wolf, and 40 is like a tiger. Then, what about Misla, who was about hundreds of years old? She is a demon. How many years had her body been touched by someone? She wasn't sure, but it had been so long. It was also due to this that her body was like a drought, arid land, yet his essence nourished her body and made her body moist, reminding her that she was a woman. Riser, Riser, Riser. As he pounded her from behind vigorously, she turned her head, sticking out her tongue like a dirty woman, asking him to kiss her. As they kissed, they kept doing their carnal exchange. Nevertheless, he had to say a married woman was different. When he was with the others, all the initiative was on him, and even if they tried to struggle, fighting back, in the end, they could only give up. Yet, Misla was different. She let him do whatever he wanted with her body. She was submissive yet eagerly sought after him. Moreover, her hole was crazy. Her puss asterisk might not be the tightest, yet it was soft and moist, giving him a different feeling when he did it with other women. It might be strange to say this, but he felt her puss asterisk was like a living being as it clutched into his penis tightly and didn't even let him go. Even when he was about to see asterisk M, she kept him in a place like a vice, letting him pour his SE asterisk N into her uterus. It was crazy, yet he was also to blame for this. While he knew that it was wrong, he used Misla as a place to release all of his emotions. His emotion toward Revel was strange. While he could see Ravel's obsession with him, he thought he could handle it calmly as he did with other women, yet unexpectedly, he couldn't, and he also started to be obsessed with her. If they kept doing it together, he knew that he might have genuinely fallen for her, yet he didn't want that. He knew how dangerous his life was, especially when he had made so many enemies. While they were the ones who provoked him, he was also the one who accepted their provocation and did even worse than what they did to him, so he knew that he needed to prepare for their revenge. Frankly, for him, who had been living in a peaceful world where the time he fought with someone could be counted on one hand, this world was scary. Yet, if he was afraid, they would mess him even further. So, it was impossible for him to back down. Nevertheless, he wasn't a robot, and it was impossible for him not to feel anything. Sometimes, he was scared, exhausted, angry, annoyed, and felt many other emotions too. Yet, if he stopped his steps or showed weakness, he would be gnawed down, being bitten into pieces until nothing was left. So, there was no way for him to stop. It's okay. I will accept everything. Just release everything to me. Under so much pressure, his movement became even more brutal and rough, like an uncontrollable beast, yet Misla was still kind and accepted everything. In the missionary position, they faced each other before she hugged him, whispering the devil's words right into his ear. You don't need to think about anything. Use me as you like, Riser Phenex. Hearing those words, he couldn't stop anymore. He didn't care whether Misla was the wife of Lord Bale or the mother of Sarork. At this moment, he was going to mark this woman into his, dominating her. Get pregnant. As she let out a beast-like roar, he released his SE asterisk N without mercy into her asterisk B. Her back arched and her voice hoarse, yet her legs tightly grasped into his waist without letting him go. After she had tasted this, it was impossible for her to be satisfied with her husband more. By now, she knew she was going to be his woman, but she didn't mind. Instead, she wished for it. Until the last moment, they were inseparable, breathing heavily, then once again kissed each other as they let themselves fall into the pleasure of an illicit relationship. Chapter 137, Buddy. Sitting side by side, Misla leaned on his shoulder intimately as she tried to catch her breath. On his side, Riser had also calmed down, so when he saw the bruising on Misla's neck and shoulders, he felt guilty. I am sorry. He might have realized this, but due to the stress he had always encountered, he always put and released all that dissatisfaction into his women. It was also due to this that when they had S*X, he became brutal and often very rough with them. Aquino aside, as she was a masochist, Misla was different. She was the wife of Lord Bale and the mother of Sarork. Moreover, she was still sick with the sleeping disease. Yet, he didn't even show mercy and mated her like an animal in heat. Riser realized how pathetic he was and knew that his tough exterior was nothing but a disguise to hide his cowardly self and weakness. As he healed those brushes with his magic, Misla smiled and kissed his lips. It's okay. You don't need to feel guilty. It feels so good to me. After he healed her, she hugged him and put his face into her soft, bountiful, naked breasts. As I have said before, I will accept your everything. I can't help you with anything, but I can give you comfort. When you need someone to release that emotion, use me, okay? Why you so accommodating me? As he was a good-for-nothing, he didn't understand why so many women would give their everything to support him. When he was just using them as a place to release his emotions, like a toilet, they kindly accepted everything and let themselves be used by him. Why were they so stupid? Yet, at the same time, why were they so kind? Facing such purity, Riser was unable to look straight. Because I love you. Watching him widen his eyes, Misla chuckled. I am sure that I am not the only woman who feels like that. There are many women who feel like that. They wish to be your strength, help you, and stay by your side. Nevertheless, they know their limitations and can also tell how you push them away, as if you are afraid to involve them with your matters. But you underestimate me and them. Unlike you guys, who use their logic in everything, we follow our feelings. In your eyes, there is no doubt that our actions are stupid, but we won't regret it. So, just follow what you believe, as I will be there to be your support. She hugged him tightly, letting him rest on her chest. Only when she hugged him tenderly, showing her love, he sucked her nipple. Geez. I am talking about something serious now. Misla looked at him helplessly as she softly brushed his hair. Enough of talking about something serious. Let's just have fun now. There was no doubt her love moved him, but if he was going to rest due to those words and let himself fall into that comfort, then she had underestimated him. He had decided to walk on this path. It was impossible for him to stop. Nevertheless, knowing that someone could be by his side, supporting him no matter what the situation was, giving him a spirit and erasing the doubt within his heart. As the two kissed once again, they let themselves fall into dirty pleasure. Riser looked at the purple sky and felt he had gotten used to life in the underworld. Frankly, compared to the human world, he suddenly felt the underworld was much more comfortable, especially when he hardly met trouble. As for Tannan, this trouble was just a small trouble for him. After all, Tannan was just a single individual, and he was different from Kokobel, Vala, and Azazel, who had the backing of entire fallen angels behind them. Still, Vala's future was probably bad due to his background, which wasn't even a full fallen angel and killed Kokobel. However, this was a good thing for Riser as he had thought of Vala as his enemy. Nevertheless, killing Vala might be difficult, especially after Surzek had stopped him previously, but Riser felt that he shouldn't give up, and he should grasp Vala's weakness so that this little white dragon emperor wouldn't dare to mess up with him anymore. Still, he was glad that he slept with Misla. While his phrasing was quite wrong, he had calmed himself. He had returned to his previous self, who could calmly face all the troubles instead of moving based on his emotions. Even if Revel tried to seduce him again, he felt that he could face her calmly. Yet, he looked at his little Riser and sighed. The charm of twin tails is dangerous. Congratulations, you have received animal affinity. As he folded his arms, he tilted his head, feeling confused by his reward. Naturally, as he had slept with Misla, he got a reward, yet what was this reward? He knew that Misla was from the Valipa clan, whose power was to tame a lion. Was it due to the fact that he got this reward? Animal affinity. Was he going to become a tamer? Still, this reward wouldn't help much in the battle, so he might as well ignore it. Nevertheless, Riser was confused, but then he wondered why the system hadn't said anything. Or rather, it had been a while for him to hear the system to talk to him. Do you want me to dictate your activities at every moment? Of course not. If the system did that, what was the difference between him and a doll? While I can't say that you are already a perfect villain, you have already walked into this path. There isn't much that I can do to help you except for making you stronger. So, just believe in your path. I will be your greatest support. Thanks. While the system was abominable, there was no doubt it was his greatest support. While Revel and Misla could support his emotions, the system could support him to become stronger, facing all of his enemies. Without saying anything or asking anything in return, the system helped him wholeheartedly. Riser suddenly felt that the system was his buddy. Just a mere dumb, big lizard dare to provoke me. Show the dragons who are the apex predator. Show everyone who is going to stand above all of them. The rewards depend on what you are doing to do. The sudden quest stopped his steps, but then, what was this quest? Nevertheless, Riser thought that the system would give him a direct reward, like how it did when he faced Kokobel, Vala, and Azazel. However, at the same time, he also knew the meaning of this raiding game wasn't just to beat up Tannan. Instead, it was a place for him to show his potential and might to everyone. When everyone thought of him as a young devil who knew nothing about his place, he should slap them, telling them that they were the ones who should know their place. This raiding game was his stage to show the new leader of the underworld. With that determination, he returned to his villa, but then he happened to see a familiar twin-tail hairstyle. Oni-sama. Revel was there, greeting him with a gentle yet mischievous smile. Riser took a deep breath. It was said that taking a break was important. Nevertheless, there was no fear in his heart anymore. Riser also smiled and took a step forward, ready to teach his little sister not to mess up with him. Chapter 138. Thrilling Stadium. Phenex Stadium. When one saw the stadium for the first time, they couldn't help but stop their steps and appreciate the design of this stadium for a while. It was said that Riser Phenex was a genius architect. However, they felt that those words rated him too low. Instead, they felt it might not be weird to say that he was a god of architecture. With his architecture mastery, Riser directly opened his architectural firm and created a lot of money from it. Not only his family, but also the Citri house and other noble families that were affiliated and allies to the two houses also became his clients. Still, in his case, he wasn't like any other architect who begged others to become his clients, but it was them who begged him to become his client as he didn't lack money. Frankly, he had done many businesses, ranging from agriculture, tourism, architecture, accounting, and beverages. Probably, in the future, there would be more businesses, and he was far from satisfied with what he was doing. However, those matters could be discussed later as his match was about to be held today. Many devils came to the Phenex domain to watch the raiding game between Riser Phenex and Tannan. Even though many thought that Tannan would win, it couldn't subdue their excitement. Even if the match ended instantly, just coming to this Phenex stadium was worth it as this stadium was so sophisticated and beautiful. Issei, I need to remind you, don't mess up this time. If you mess up, then even I won't be able to save your life. I understand, Ucho. Issei felt helpless, wondering how many times Rias had said those words to him. If you can't follow my order, then you might as well stay on the Gremory domain. Rias couldn't feel at ease bringing Issei with her, And she also felt annoyed when she thought about how Issei knew the rating game between Riser and Tannan. No, I am going to follow you, Bucho. There was no way that Issei was going to let Rias go alone to the Phenex domain alone. He had to be there by her side, or else that bastard might do something. Yet, he had to say it. Watching the bustling crowd and the crazy amount of devils who came to this stadium, Issei couldn't help but feel jealous. After all, Issei knew that everyone who came to this place was coming to watch Riser. When he thought about the popularity and how Riser was sought by everyone, especially when he saw many cute girls there, he felt so jealous, even though he is only a grilled chicken. Issei. Rias scolded Issei harshly, causing his body to tense. Bubucho. Rias had always been gentle as she had always thought her peerage members were cute, but then again, she felt that Issei's jealousy started to make him ugly and touched her nerves. Do you know where we are? This is the Phenex domain. Riser's home. Riser narrowed her eyes and asked, Do you want to die, Issei? Those words were enough to remind Issei, who was stupid, but then he still felt disappointed. Still, not only Rias but Akino was also dissatisfied, but she never said anything, especially when this person was present among them. Haha. Rias, you don't need to be so harsh with your servant. Oni-sama. Surzek laughed with ease, making the atmosphere calm, yet even if he appeared so gentle, it made all of them shut their mouths. Issei-kun, well, I don't want to say this. You are still weak, so watch how you speak, okay? Yes, Surzek-sama. Unlike Riser, who didn't kill his opponents, Surzek was different. Issei still remembered how all the devils that day were erased so cleanly by Surzek. Yet, even with all that, Surzek could still show a gentle smile. Frankly, Issei was scared. Don't be so tense, okay? You are the Red Dragon Emperor. You should show your pride, Issei-kun. Surzek looked at the crowd, the beautiful stadium, and everything in the Phenex domain from where he stood. In the future, you will be able to get what he has. I will have such a scene in the future. Issei was in a daze, thinking about the future where he would be fawned upon and popular with so many girls. When Surzek thought about how his political career had weakened, the economy of the Gremory house was also affected by his conflict with Riser. Still, even though he had lowered his head and only asked him to apologize, Riser didn't do that, causing him to shake his head, thinking how small-minded and petty Riser was. Still, compared to all that, he wondered what was happening with his little Surzek. Was this a new disease of the devil? Yet, how could he ask someone about this trouble? As Surzek let out a helpless sigh, Grafia, his wife, had been worried about her husband, especially when their bed was separated, and he had never touched her after that day. Naturally, she felt confused, doubted, and confused, so she wondered what was happening. Nevertheless, it didn't change the fact that all of them entered the VIP area of the Phenex Stadium, meeting many various important figures along the way. Oh, Surzek, are you here too? After Surzek became the Mal Lucifer, there were only a few people who could casually call his name. And this person was one of them, Zekrom Bale, the real leader behind the Great King faction in the first generation of the Bale House. As he saw the appearance of this person, Surzek's expression was so complicated. Wow. Ruruko Nimura looked at the sea of devils that crowded this place like trash. There are so many people. Not only Ruruko but all of Sona's peerage members were dumbfounded by the number of audiences that came on Riser's rating game. Kaicho, are we going to have so many people watch us in the rating game in the future? Saji couldn't help but ask. The others also looked at Sona curiously. They knew that in the future, they would participate in the rating game, so while they were quite nervous due to the sheer of the numbers of audience, they also anticipated it. No. Sona was realistic. My husband did his preparation well. Moreover, he has considerable popularity in the underworld. Even though not all the reasons why Riser's name became popular were good, there was no doubt Riser was popular. Moreover, Riser also made many preparations, though Sona had to say this popularity was still beyond her understanding since the number of devils that came to watch this match was too much. Still, match aside, they sighed in relief when they saw their master's complexion and health had returned. It seems that after Riser's press conference, Sona and Riser had made up, which greatly relieved them. While Saji was quite dissatisfied as Riser made Sona cry and so frail, he didn't have the guts to say anything, especially after he saw Riser that day and how Surzek could annihilate everyone at ease. Saji knew the cruelty of the world, and it was also due to this that he could only sigh helplessly. The only good thing was Sona could smile, and that was enough for him. Oni-sama, how long are you going to stay there? Aren't you going to meet my husband? Unlike Sona, who had made up and her condition recovered quickly, Seraphal was different. Seraphal had no bubbly or innocent image of her, she says. Instead, she was hesitant and cowardly as they quickly approached his waiting room. Unlike before, the relationship between Seraphal and Riser was quite stiff, especially when she stopped him that day and told him that she would stop him no matter what. When they walked before, even though Sona's head was full of Riser, Seraphal could see many devils from the Great King faction. Even Zekrambale, the real leader of the Great King faction, also appeared. Riser was serious, and he was going to take down Riser. Nevertheless, Seraphal didn't care about that now, as she only wished for their relationship to return to how it used to be. Sona was a little helpless, but then... Oh, Sona? Seraphal. Yahalo, and Phenex. Seraphal greeted Lady Phenex excitedly. Mother. Sona was surprised to see Lady Phenex. Lady Phenex smiled and was happy when she saw her daughter-in-law and Seraphal, but then there was a single concern that lingered within her mind. Have you two made up? Yes. Sona was a little awkward, but she nodded with a happy smile. That's good. Lady Phenex was happy. How about we visit him now? Want I interrupt him? Sona hesitated as she didn't want to interrupt her husband. Of course not. I am sure that he is happy with your visit. Lady Phenex then looked at Zenobia, who was staring at the staggering number of crowds through the corridor window. Zenobia, what's wrong? No, nothing, Lady Phenex. Zenobia quickly answered and acted like an expressionless bodyguard once again. If you want to watch, then watch, okay? Well, frankly, Zenobia wanted to be part of Riser's peerage members and fought with him on this raiding game, but she knew she could hardly help, especially when she wasn't that strong compared to the others. You are that exorcist, right? Sona was surprised to see Zenobia. Sona-sama. Zenobia greeted Sona with a polite nod. Oh, do you know each other? Lady Phenex was surprised. We do. As Sona and Zenobia explained how they knew each other and delayed their trip to Riser's room, Riser faced incredible trouble. Revel. The bathroom door was locked, and he was pushed. Oni-sama, let Revel help you to relax before the match. Revel showed off her ladylike yet mischievous smile once again. Riser wondered why many women love to play in the bathroom. Chapter 139, Naughty Bird. When their relationship started, her love was cute, even if she was a little aggressive, but after that press conference, Riser had to say Revel's obsession with him was almost as morbid and crazy-like. She was like a fire who wished to burn him into her so she could monopolize him alone. If it was before, he might have let himself be burnt, but he was different now. Moreover, what kind of situation were they in? He was about to have an important raiding game that would determine his future, yet she pushed him inside the toilet as she was ready to take off his pants. Revel, stop. Are you sure? Oni-sama, you aren't honest. Revel didn't even seem to mind his rejection. Instead, her smile was even brighter as she rubbed his big bulge. Look, your body is honest. It's hard. You won't be able to concentrate on the raiding game like this. Revel will help you to calm down. As she showed her lewd expression, Riser finally got angry. Enough, Revel. Watching Revel, who was stunned as her eyes turned red and filled with tears, his heart ached. But he felt that it was dangerous if they continued like this. Nevertheless, she didn't expect Riser to raise his voice and get angry at her. As expected, he had changed. Everything was due to Sona. If Sona wasn't around, then A. But at the same time, she was A. Her thoughts stopped when her lips were taken by him. He hugged her tightly and kissed her deeply, telling her how much he loved her. While she was angry at first, she struggled, trying to push him away. After all, he just got angry at her, and how could she forgive him easily? Yet in the end, she gave up and hugged him tightly as if she wanted to possess him. She wasn't going to give him to anyone. He could be only for hers. Yet, what about him? When their lips parted, she stared at him with eyes that were filled with love and asked softly, Do you hate me, Oni-sama? I am not. There is no way that I hate you. He hugged her with his arms tenderly. While he felt weird doing this inside the toilet cubicle, he knew that he couldn't be a chooser, especially when everywhere except for this place was dangerous. Outside, there were his peerage members, siblings, wife, and even in-laws. While he had decided to take a step forward to hold Revel in his arms, he wasn't sure whether she was ready for this as he knew their step wouldn't be as smooth as they thought it would be. While he didn't care about his reputation, as his reputation was as low as it could be, he didn't want Revel to be stained due to him. Then, why did you reject Revel? Do you not love Revel anymore? The more she asked, the more hysterical she was. Yet, even facing such a blazing flame-like emotion, he was still calm and just accepted everything as he gently caressed her hair until she calmed down. I don't hate you. I love you. You are the one who is with me when I need someone the most. You are irresponsible to me, Revel. Oni-sama. But you should know what I am going to face. While I know that you want to help me, you should know how important this match is for my future. Revel could only lower her head, showing sadness and regret as she heard his soft voice. Still, are you afraid of something? What? She was shocked when she heard his question. Don't hide it from me. Riser tapped her cute, small nose and said, I know you are worried about something. Let me know. If you have something that makes you in doubt or scared, you should ask me. She struggled for a moment, then asked, Are you going to visit Sona Onisama after this match, Oni-sama? Yes. Riser nodded without hesitation, causing Revel to feel hurt. For her, he was her everything. Yet, for him, was she his everything? I know that I have hurt you, but she is my wife after all, and we have made our relationship even if you know that fact, right? I know that I might be cruel. He stopped for a moment, paused, then asked, Revel, do you think our relationship is right? Why did you say that? I just can't help but think that instead of being with me, you can have normal happiness with others. Riser gently caressed her spiral curls in regret. If you are not with me, will you need to hide to meet someone you like? I just can't help but it. Revel stopped his words by kissing his lips and hugging him tightly. Watching Revel, who had acted according to his prediction, he sighed in relief. While he knew that he might have deceived her, this was necessary as he was afraid that her passionate love might destroy everything. While he didn't regret having her, he knew that their path wouldn't be easy. As their lips parted, she looked at him with love. Oni-sama, Revel had never regretted anything. Instead, Revel is happy that we can be together, so never say that again, okay? Revel loves Oni-sama. If Revel can't be with you, then Revel might not be able to feel this wonderful feeling when my chest feels fluffy and excited at the same time. Revel might not be able to feel this love, which is like a flower blooming in the middle of winter. If we don't be together, then Revel can only spend her days in loneliness and tears every day. While Revel might be the closest, Revel is also the furthest. But now, it is different. We are together, and Revel is so grateful that you hugged me and stopped me back then. Oni-sama, you are my everything. I love you. Riser was almost overwhelmed by her feelings, but while it was heavy, he asked, then, do you think it is all right for the two of us to be together? Of course we are. There was no hesitation in her voice. They were filled with confidence as she gently caressed his cheek. We're special, Oni-sama. We love each other, so everything is okay. As long as there was love, everything was okay. If the world could be so easy, then was there even a point for him to be worried? As she sat on his lap, he hugged her and rested on her well-developed breasts. While he had many worries about this world, her scent calmed him down. Nevertheless, he knew that he had calmed down, and there was no need to worry that this rampaging raptor might bring him trouble. Are you sure that you don't want to do it, Oni-sama? Riser looked at Revel, who massaged his erection with a mischievous smile once again. While he was helpless, he knew that he needed to teach this insolent little sister. As they walked out of the bathroom, they had calmed down. Their scent had been burnt with fire magic, so no lewd smell could be smelled from them. Riser was so glad to learn this magic, after all. Where have you been? We have been waiting for you. Lady Phenex sighed helplessly as she had been waiting for everyone in the waiting room. Nevertheless, as he sighed in relief, he looked at the naughty bird on his side, who showed a smug expression. It seemed that he didn't punish her enough. In a random restaurant in the underworld, many people put their attention on the television, watching the rating game, as they talked raucously and consumed their snacks and alcohol, waiting for the match to start. Nevertheless, on the corner of the restaurant, there was a particular group who seemed to be in discussion, yet even so, their eyes focused on the television, even to the point of obsession. Valet, was he the one who had made you like this? A monkey-like young man looked at the handsome young man with a long-sleeved shirt and gloves. He is. So, are you going to have revenge? Another young man with a gentleman-like appearance asked. I will. There was no way Valet was going to swallow everything, especially after all of that. He was going to make him regret doing all of this to him. Hearing those words, the two young men nodded, but a girl with a witch-like appearance was a little helpless. However, a young woman with a black kimono dress and cat-like features ignored their discussion and didn't show much interest even if she had sought after his seeds previously. Instead, she just watched the television with a hint of curiosity and an ardent desire for a certain activity. Chapter 140, Can We Change the Commentator? Signed in relief as he had mastered all the fire-related abilities, Riser looked at his wife. Why are you standing there awkwardly? Come here. Sona, who showed an awkward and hesitated, then jumped without hesitation. It's good that you are well now. He hugged her with one arm and lazily rubbed her hair as she hugged him tightly. Lady Phenex smiled when she saw the relationship between her son and his wife was good. Nevertheless, many could only sigh, feeling jealous, but what could they say? No matter how they felt inside their hearts, Sona was his wife, and that change wouldn't change in the present. Yet, what about in the future? No one really knew, but as of now, there was no doubt among all the females present that Sona was the only one who could be by his side in an upright manner. Nevertheless, among them, there was one person that caught his attention. What are you doing there? And you are not hiding with your twin tail sticking out like a sore thumb. Hearing his words, Sarah Fall, who tried to hide, twitched slightly, causing her buttocks to shake, showing how uneasy she was. Riser fell in silence and thought that his sister-in-law was too lewd even though she was dressed for the occasion and didn't wear her usual Mahou Shaojo uniform. Instead, she dressed in more modest and delicate clothes. She appeared more lewd for some reason. The way she was trembling as she was looking at him made him wish to bully her like how a Mahou Shaojo was tortured by the tentacle monster. Go ahead. Nevertheless, their relationship had changed after that day. While he wasn't sure what Serafal was thinking, Riser didn't care that much. Frankly, the matter of emotion was quite troublesome, especially when it was impossible to treat Serafal like his peerage members due to her status. It was like how he needed to comfort Revel previously. However, if Serafal jumped into him, why should he refuse? Still, he knew, in this situation, that he shouldn't be kind, especially when Serafal showed her determination to stop him from killing Surzek. While he knew it was all due to her wish to give the best to him and save him, as Surzek was a monster, there was no doubt that her act could be considered a betrayal in his mind. Yet, even if he might think of her action as a betrayal, she didn't regret it as she knew what kind of creature Surzek was. Surzek was no longer a devil. Instead, it was something else. An entirely different being. Watching him walk into such a ruined path, Serafal wished to stop him. Yet, he was just stubborn and didn't listen to her. Still, due to this, their relationship became awkward, and it was impossible to return to how it was previously. However, who came to the conclusion that the previous relationship was better than it is now? They might be in conflict, but it didn't mean they were going to fight to death. Even now, she was still his sister-in-law. Only the two of them had shown the parts that they had never shown each other. This was a part of themselves that they might not show each other for their entire lives. Yet, shortly after they got to know each other, they showed each other. Still, he was greedy for his sister-in-law's body. Jokes aside, he wanted to mooch his sister-in-law, so he gestured for her to come to him. Come here. There was no hesitation as she leaped directly and jumped into him. Riser-chan, she cried as she hugged him tightly, pressing their cheeks together as she pushed Sona away. Sona stared at her sister-in-law, who got chummy with her husband. Oni-sama. So-chan is too stingy. As Sona's small breasts and Serafal's big breast pressed against him, Riser thought that his decision was correct. Still, their breasts aside, he was going to have a raiding game, so how could he let them stay in this place all the time? While he was calm, he needed to calm his peerage members. Everyone understood that, but Serafal suddenly said, "Oh, right, Riser-chan, I have a gift for you." A gift? What's with that face? I prepared it for you, you know? There was no way that he wasn't in doubt when he heard Serafal had prepared him a gift. His expression turned into that of suspicion. While his reaction might be rude, he couldn't be blamed as Serafal's conduct every day made it hard for him not to doubt her, especially when she told him that she was going to give him a gift. If this wasn't something suspicious, he wouldn't believe it. Frankly, not only him, but the others also thought so. Geez. You are all doubting me. This gift will suit Riser-chan so much that I can't help but wish to give it to him. What kind of gift? Sona thought that she might need to give him a gift as she realized that except for following his pervert requests such as rubbing her nipples when they slept, rubbing her thigh with his cheek, or tearing her stockings like they were disposable chopsticks, it seemed she had given him a lot. Still, she felt that she might give him a gift or two like Serafal. Look at this. I feel this will be suitable for you. Serafal childishly showed her gift, jumping around, causing her breasts to tremble due to the force of gravity and motion. Only, when Sona saw Serafal's gift, she should have given her husband a normal gift instead of the one that was given by Serafal. Not only Sona but the others fell in silence. What is this? Riser asked in a plain voice. A coat. What? It's a coat. What was in her hand was a light pink coat that reminded the feathers of the flamingo. This will be suitable to be used with your maroon suit. Try it. Believe me. Serafal didn't even give him a chance to refuse to put the light pink coat on his shoulders. When her hands touched his shoulders, she lightly touched his neck and ears, as it had been a while since they had been so close. While she might have hugged him before, she didn't have much time to do so, and she was still far from satisfied. So when she put on this coat, she used this chance to be so close that she pushed her breast behind his head. Such an action was, there was no doubt, inappropriate, but no one paid much attention to Serafal, especially when all the eyes were on Riser as they were surprised by this light pink coat, which was like flamingo feathers, was strangely suited for him. Frankly, the pink coat didn't give a feminine charm. Instead, it made him appear more unique, yet retaining his rugged, manly charm. Geez, Riser-chan, don't be naughty. While others were focused on his appearance, Riser relaxed his head on his sister-in-law's breasts, causing her to lightly chide him, but strangely enough, her face was full of happiness. Still, Serafal looked at everyone and said proudly, "It's good, right? My gift is good, right? Everyone. By the way, who will be the commentators of this rating game?" Riser suddenly asked. "You are ignoring me?" As Serafal showed her annoyance by hugging him tightly, Lady Phenex unexpectedly said, "Riser, why don't you wear that coat later?" "What? You can use it to make a new brand for you. With that pink coat, no one will forget you." Even if there was no pink coat, Riser was sure that he wouldn't make anyone forget about him. Still, there was no doubt that by wearing this pink coat, no one would be able to ignore him, and his image would be remembered by anyone. Yet, how could it not be? After all, this pink coat was too gaudy. However, it wasn't like he didn't understand his mother's words, as the rating game was entertainment. Struggling, he was sure that everyone would make fun of him due to his fashion sense. But then again, was there a point in worrying about their thoughts? Still, was this pink coat going to become his symbol of resistance? Yet, there was still a question that he needed to ask. By the way, really, who are the commentators of this game? Hesitating, his mother said, there are two commentators. One is the second rank of the rating game, Roy Gun Belphegor. Really? Riser was surprised as he didn't expect the second rank to become the commentator of his game. Who is the next one? Lady Phenex didn't say anything, only stared at the figure who stood behind him. Riser turned his head and saw Seraphal made two peace signs. I am the commentator. Leave everything to me, Riser-chan. Can we change the commentator?